You are now? You're almost ready. Go.
Backyard of United Satellite Systems. And before we get really cranked into this is our little antenna farm out here. There's our little Stoli KU band antenna. This is an 11-foot, boy, I don't want to describe it, but we did some work for outfit that dumped a bunch of those. And so it's there. There's the antenna that's going to be our object today, and we'll take a little closer look at this. This is a 1.8 meter or 6-foot Stoli KU band antenna, the ones they built for Canada up there, and the old timers on the show will remember we sold quite a few of them. Got Todd walking around there carrying pieces. You notice we got a little ding or two in that antenna. They show up quite well when you get the sun on them just right. And this is just a little bit of the rest of our antenna farm out in back of USS. We've got some 10-footers we use in the shop there, a mesh antenna that's on test. Over here on the left side is an 8-footer, 2.4 meter. That's hooked up to a little demo thing inside and some stuff we use when we're testing. And I guess, while we're poking around at the antennas here, we've got our 5-meter that we had out in back there. We're in the process of tearing this one down, and this is going to become part of the course of instruction in our little school we're going to do here come end of June, early July. We're going to take this all apart now and start from scratch, and our school is going to build a 5-meter. This has been a test antenna. Okay. Subject today, right here. We took this 10-footer that's out a little bit. You'll notice that we put a National ADL-CKU feed on it. I might mention that's a feed that somebody said didn't work, and they sent it back to us. Now, to get this thing started, I'm going to break this loose from the post here. And while I'm doing that, I want you to take a look at this antenna and note that, well, start with this was peaked up already. So that's not really fair. Of course, a good share of you are going to start out with an antenna that's semi-peaked up already, so I guess it works out to about the same difference. But even if you're starting from scratch, you get to this point, you get the mount set, and the fact that we've already had this one up, I'm going to mark this where it was before and see how much we had to change it to really peak it up, and I suggest you do the same thing out there. Now, I might want to mention, too, declination correction angle is the first thing we want to talk about. On ours, we've got 4 holes, 2, 4, 6, and 8 degrees. This one's set on 6 degrees, which is what we need for our area up here. We stopped this thing so we could talk about this a little bit. You will have various types of declination correction settings on your antenna. Most of them should be about right if they're already up. Check with us. We can tell you how to find them. Most of the time, it's the top of the antenna. All right, while we've got this stopped here, we want you to note that we've turned this antenna now and set it up so it's almost exactly true south off the mount. River Falls, that's Telstar 301. Now we're going to peak this up best we can on Telstar 301 right here. And we're doing this, we're using a tracker 4 controller that we've tied into the actuator so we get some way to run this while we're out here instead of running back and forth. And once we get it peaked up, now we're going to set the elevation. Directly south, satellite most south off from your location. We can tell you what that is if you need a little help, or you might even know already based on your setup there. Now, what I'm doing is I'm adjusting the elevation, and I'm adjusting it one direction, and I'm watching the meter down there, and as I go through the peak, I'm going to go through the peak on both sides, and then I'm going to turn this whole cotton picker around and crank it back through the other way. All right. This is what I'm seeing while I'm doing this. That meter goes down. I went through the peak one way, dropped out the peak. Now I'm going to bring it right back up to the peak the other way so I know what it is. All right, now we're going to run this thing down to a westerly satellite. We're kind of trotting through the belt here, and we started out on Telstar 301. At this point, we're going down to F1R. And I'm going to have to talk a little bit to fill some time while we're getting down to F1. We're running it west, and we're again, just using the manual actuator buttons on the tracker 4 controller, which was handy in the shop to do this. You'll notice we've got an old SR2 out there. Okay, we found SATCOM F1, and we're going to peak it up in azimuth again very carefully with the controller here. All right, at this point in time, we're not going to change that elevation setting. We're going to get set up here to where we've got a good number. I like to use 40. I can't get it to settle down on 40 here. It gives me some range in the meter. Come Come on. All right, don't like 40, we'll use 60. What the heck, it doesn't make any difference. Just so we've got something to work for. And now what I am doing, and as Rick is trying to keep up in the wind out here, is I am rotating. No, I'm not. I'm peaking it up again. Okay, now I've got it back where I wanted to start from here, and if we can get the camera watching me over here a little bit. Well, what we're missing here, Rick is going to show you. I'm going back and forth to the antenna, and I am grabbing the antenna by the edge and jerking it around on the mount, so it actually rotates the mount on the pipe a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm trying both sides again there. All right, now he's finally got over here. I'm actually just pulling on this thing so it moves on the pipe a little bit, and I'm going back to the tracker and peaking it up in azimuth again. And essentially what we're doing is we're setting this thing on the arc. We already know what the elevation we want. Now all we got to do is get the correct elevation at SATCOM F1R, and you do that by rotating the mount on the post, peaking it up. You try it on both sides, and whenever you're using a bullseye meter, at this point you're looking for the highest numbers you can possibly get. All right. You didn't get to see all that, but I went back and forth 3 or 4 times in there. I got the thing peaked up, and by moving either side of my mark, I've actually found out I was off about 1/4 of an inch, and now I'm over here locking this thing down. You'll generally have somebody helping you, and while you're locking it down on the pipe, you want to make sure that you haven't tilted it with your bolts that you're tightening up there to a point that it's actually kicking it off the arc a little bit. So we're now sitting there observing that meter while we're cinching these 4 bolts down that hold this thing from rotating on the pipe. Fact is, a good thing to do after you're absolutely certain it is really well peaked up all the way across the belt. You got it locked down. We're going to run back through it here again now and go over to Telstar 301 and check it. And while we're running through the satellites, you'll see the meter going up and down. But once you are absolutely certain that you've got this thing peaked up absolutely as well as you possibly can, then we will normally drill right through the outer housing of the mount into the post, run some 3/8-inch shreds in there, and screw a bolt in there so that wind can't possibly move it. Now, if your post ever moves or the post twists in the ground, you're going to have to take that bolt out. What we're doing now is running back over to Telstar 301, our southerly satellite. It's got a little healthier signal, and we're going to check that elevation again with our thing and see if it stayed right on the same elevation for this satellite. By golly, it looks like it did. It looks like we're back to exactly the same spot. Now just a little final check here. I'm going to sneak up on this antenna, and I'm going to put my back on it and push on it a little bit on the bottom and see if we can gain anything. Not much happened. All right, we've got this thing pretty well set up. We're going to lock down the elevation adjustment on it, and we're done with this part of the setup. Now we've got to get everything drug around here to the front, but before I can reach everything, we'll run her back down to F1. Now this happens to be a nice low antenna we've got out in the back, kind of for checking feeds and doing stuff like that, and it also makes it very handy. I can run it back down to F1 here, get it peaked up on the satellite, and at that point in time we can carry everything around to the front. Okay, want to make sure it's peaked right up again, and then we'll get her kind of settled down here. All right, we got a little less signal here, so we're going to take the meter itself and tweak it back up to that 40 number. I kind of like to work around that one. As long as we're here, we'll look at F1 and see what some of these other transponders look like. You know, we got 1 or 2 that's a little healthier here. What we should have done, Rick, is we should have gone up and down so they could see the video while we were doing this. I guess we didn't think of it. Okay, now we're around in front of this antenna. What do we have to do from here? Okay, we want to get the feed pointing directly at the center of the antenna and ascertain that it is. And the best way to do that is, again, using the meter. And on our antennas, they aren't adjustable. They're supposed to be pointing right in the middle, and you can't adjust them in and out. But what we'll do is we'll just take the meter, and by observing it very carefully, we'll tip the feed. If the meter drops when we tip the feed any direction, we know that we're centered up pretty good. The antenna is peaked up quite well. Now, along with this, we don't have to adjust ours in and out. We don't really have any way to do that because we've optimized this on on the range very carefully, and we don't want anybody to change our focal length on our antennas. If you have a focal length at this point in time, you will also adjust the focal length in and out, again, very carefully, and always looking for the maximum number that you can find on that meter.
Ready to go.
We're going? All right, we're running. Okay, we've gone out, we've peeked up that antenna, and we've wandered back in now on the other end of this thing where it runs into our little room, and we operate this thing to see what we've done. And we left the antenna on SATCOM F1, and what I've done in here is set it up on F1 on, I guess, what we consider the weakest transponder in our area. In fact, we came in and reprogrammed the SR3 because anytime you move the feed, it's going to change the stop positions for your actuator just a little bit, and you got to remember you're going to have to do that. And we picked up the satellites across the belt, see what it looked like, and what we're going to do is we're going to show you guys what it looks like at this point too. So we've got F1, and we've got transponder 7, which is a weak one. We're going to run the SR3 on over here to Galaxy 1 and see what it looks like. And I'm just going to take our time here and gradually work all the way across the belt. Okay. As everybody well knows, we're probably going to see a few religious channels in here because we aren't running a video cipher on this particular unit. And most of the stuff is scrambled on some of these satellites now if you don't have a video cipher in there. And we wandering across. All right, we've got F3 now. That's Home Shopping Network up on 22. I think what we'll do is we'll slip down here to 6 right quick before we leave this one and see what he looks like. Of course, that's CNBC now, and that used to be Tempo. That was kind of a weak transponder, and they've kind of pooped it up a little bit, it looks like, since CNBC started transmitting there. But we'll, well, let's see what his 8 looked like. They were used to have a few hits. We got no hits at all in the blue there, so let's wander on over. Now, we already know that, well, let's see, Telstar, we found a little video on that when we were fooling around here, so we'll take a stop on Telstar 303. Sure, they're still running that feed. I don't know who this is for. They're speaking a foreign language, and I don't understand it real well. And not real good video either. And we'll go stop in on our friend Dr. Scott on Westar 5 and see how he looks. And we'll just keep going along across here. We've got SpaceNet. We'll take a look at them right quick. I think this is, yeah, reach out to the children in your community. And we got a little bit more space on this one, Anik. Now this transponder was alive a little minute ago, but they've died on us here. Let's see what else we got on this satellite. Nothing happening on Anik 2. Leech type scrambling. Dirty boogers up there are playing with that now. And there's our old video cipher. Well, all we've got is leech type scrambling, so we'll look at the other Anik, I guess, as long as we're right here. Everybody knows up in the northern part of the good old USA, this is a fairly healthy satellite. Now, you people down south probably don't get it quite this well. And the next stop should be Westar, and we'll take a look at one of the PBS feeds there. And the real proof of the pudding as we're going across the belt here with this thing is when we get over to the F4 and SATCOM F2 side, if we're still doing as good a job as we are over here. ABC is looking pretty good today. Galaxy 3, oh, we got C-SPAN here. Someplace in here we should run across some news about the shuttle. This will kind of give you an indication of when we're actually doing this. They didn't get her off the ground today, as everybody well knows, and it's now on hold, and we've been kind of watching that this afternoon as we were setting up. How come we got on Telstar 302 on a scrambled channel, Rick? Did you do that?
SpaceNet.
I mean, oh, SpaceNet 3. Forgot about that. He's in there now, and there isn't anything that isn't scrambled on SpaceNet, so we'll just go on over to the next one and see what we've got there. Is that ABC again? Oh, this is CBS, I guess, over here. Now we're getting over here to where it really starts to show if we did a good job of tracking that antenna. We've got SATCOM 4 and we're on, what is this, the information channel. Let's look on this satellite just a little bit and see what else we've got here. Oh, beach type scrambling again. Those people are sneaking up on us all over here. Nothing on that transponder. We've got a little video cipher there. What are they doing on the Playboy channel during the day nowadays? Let's look at the odd side of this thing and see what it looks like. It appears like maybe we got one that works here. We'll go on over and look at the far end of this thing, Galaxy 2. We ought to have a little video on that one. And we'll look at AFRTS over here and see how they look way out on SpaceNet 2. Hit them right in the middle of their supers and advertising. And then last but not least, way out on the far end of this whole thing, we've got SpaceNet 2. And evidently we did a reasonably good job of getting this satellite peaked up. This is not a real good movie that we've got here, but that's what it should look like if you've taken the time, got your bullseye meter out, followed what we told you a little bit earlier in this whole thing, and hopefully that'll all go together because we haven't even looked at it yet while we're doing this part of it. But you should be able to come up with a satellite antenna that will track across the belt. Now, as you saw from the video earlier, we're using one of our 10-foot antennas. We're right up here just about as far north as you can get in Minnesota. From most of the good old United States, we're down footprint-wise, probably 2 to 3 dB less than you'll find down in the central part of the United States. We are using an SR3, and just for the heck of it, I think we'll run this thing clear on over back to space, our SATCOM F1 down on the other end of the belt. Now, in this particular antenna, we use this for display and chasing around and watching things, and we've got an actuator on here that's a relatively low count actuator. I do not recommend that, but we've also got fairly solid mounts, so we can get away with it a little bit here at USS. As this is wandering back down, another thing I might mention is we did not have a CKU feed on this particular antenna, so we did indeed, as you saw from the video earlier again, we put one of the national ADL CKU feeds. As you also notice, the way this is set up, it doesn't take us very long to run back and forth across the belt. That was from SATCOM F1, and if we trick this a little bit, we can get it to run right back over to SpaceNet 2. And I might mention that CKU feed that we put on this was one that we had sold to someone out there that put it up on their antenna, and they called up and says, hey, this feed doesn't work, there's something wrong with it. And as we normally do, we told them to send it back in, we replace it, and we did that. And we needed a feed to put on our own antenna, so we just took that one that wasn't any good and stuck it up out here, and I'll be darned if it doesn't seem to work pretty good. That is a relatively high-speed jack that we've got out there. It runs right across there in good shape. I think at this point in time, we'll go back over to SATCOM 4, if I can get my finger on the right button. And we have equipped this with a CKU feed, but we cannot right now show you KU band because I got to run one more wire from this antenna, and this is about 200 feet out in the back corner from this room. And Monday Todd has indicated to me that he will indeed run a second feed. We just had a single RG6 cable run out to this, and we've got to run one back through the building. And at that point in time, we will then be able to sit down with this and crank the whole thing up on KU band and see what it looks like. How do I get so lucky I can find all these transponders that are scrambled? All right. That was a little chunk of tape we did, but now what we've got to do for you here is we got to finish this out after we watch it. Well, two things. We're learning how to do this. Next one, when we get out in the yard, is going to be a little bit better because Rick will know to stay back a little further with the camera so you can see a little bit more what's going on.
But there's one thing that's fairly important when you're peaking up your antenna that we probably didn't cover well enough on that chunk of tape, and we're going to hit it here right now. When you go to your satellite antenna, you've got a post in the ground. You've got a mount that fits down over this post, generally attached on here with some bolts. This mount will go up and have some kind of a bracket in here that holds the hour axle. This is the axle that the antenna rotates on. Some of them are fairly short, some of them are long. You will also have a bracket or a screw or a turnbuckle or something to adjust the elevation of this hour axle. Okay, here is the key thing. Select the satellite that is close to truest south at your location. At Thief River Falls, Minnesota, that happens to be Telstar 301. And Telstar 301 is 179 degrees true azimuth from us, which means it's 1 degree to the left of true south. If you go further to the western United States, you're going to be looking at Westar 4, possibly Anik D, or if you get clear out on the west coast, I think Westar 5 comes closest to being true south. You go clear over on the east coast, it's Telstar 302 or maybe SpaceNet 4, but the one that is closest to exactly 180 degrees from your antenna. At that point, you will peak it up in azimuth till you get the best picture there, then you adjust this elevation, get the best numbers you can on elevation, and that's the last time you adjust this adjustment here. Now, whether it's a turnbuckle or it's a bolt in the mount or however that elevation is adjusted, that's the last time you'll adjust it. From there on, you're going to loosen up these bolts that hold this mount to the post, and when you go down to your westerly satellite, if you're in the eastern United States, or an easterly satellite if you're in the western United States, to set this positioning of the antenna at that point, then from there on, you're rotating the whole mount on the post, not changing this again. Remember that. That's key. Now, I don't know which way you're going to have to rotate to peak this antenna up, but you'll find that out, especially if you mark it here. So you got a little mark, and you move it one way a little bit. If it gets worse, then obviously you know you're going the wrong way, so you want to move it the other way. And you just keep working it back and forth. It's going to take a little bit of time to do that, but you will then wind up with an antenna that will accurately track the belt. One other thing I want to talk about just a moment is declination correction angle. This is your hour axle. This would be the plane of your antenna in relation to the hour axle. Your declination correction angle is also always a positive angle at the top side of the mount. Now, if you have continuous declination correction adjustment, if you get it reasonably close to what you should have in your area, and rule of thumb for you, extreme southern United States, 2, 3, 4 degrees is okay. Middle United States, 4 or 5 degrees, 6 degrees as you get up to the northern part of the United States. If you get it reasonably close to those numbers, peak it up like we've told you here, it'll track the belt. If you're really a perfectionist, then you want to dig out your exact declination correction, measure the angle difference here, get it set perfectly, and then still go through this same operation. But our antennas, we use whole system that locks down. We don't have continuously adjustable. It's adjustable in 2-degree steps. We find that to be very accurate. Rick is telling me I got, what, 2 or 3 minutes left here. Kind of keep track here, and we'll finish this off so we can get into something else for this second hour. But we find it to be very accurate. In fact, is early on, all the USS antennas, this goes back into the end of the 1970s, had a fixed 4-degree declination correction built into them, and they'd still track the belt all over the United States. But it is a positive angle from the top side of the antenna, so it's going to be a little further apart at the top than it is at the bottom on your hour axle setting. There's a number of ways to do this. If you run into a problem, give us a call on our tech line and we'll try to help you with it. Get your bullseye meter, get out there and get that antenna peaked up, and you'll be surprised at how much difference it makes. Back down here at the desk, we got 2 more minutes to go in this hour. That's the bullseye meter. They're $104.95. I would say we sold 1,000 or more of these to people out there in the field. We know there's a lot more of you than that watch this show. If you've got a home satellite antenna, you want it to work the best it possibly can. You do like we said on the board and in the chunk of tape before. But you got to have this little meter out there, or you're wasting a lot of time fooling the thing. Now, you can probably improve your antenna if you want to drag your receiver and a TV set and everything out there and observe the sparklies on the TV set. You can probably improve it using the method we gave you quite dramatically. You want to get the most out of it, you're going to have a bullseye meter. And again, this is the very best meter we found out there that anybody's got. The thing works, it's sensitive, it works like it's supposed to, and if you've got a home satellite system, it's a reasonably good investment. While I've got this in my hand, antenna in, receiver out, you will note that it degrades the picture on the receiver a little bit when you've got this thing hooked into the system. Don't worry about that. What you're looking at is this meter right up here and the numbers you can get out of it. You adjust it like I did, get a number there. Kind of keep in mind, and if you have to remember it while you're peaking this thing up, take a piece of paper with you so you know which transponder you're using on which satellite while you're peaking it up, and that'll give you a reference, a relative number to come back to, and then you can tell if you're improving. Don't get in a hurry. Spend enough time to do a good job, and I absolutely promise you you'll see a dramatic improvements in the performance of your TVRO system, unless whoever set that antenna up last time really took their time and did a good job. Get another tape in here, and we'll be back with you in just a minute.